looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law.
Good evening and welcome to another wonderful episode of Truth and Justice TV. Now, I hope that you're ready to get your questions firing and I hope that you're ready for Christmas. Have you done all your shopping? Have you had all the mince pies you can eat? Well, I have started the shopping, but I've not finished. And you know, this is a season to be jolly. So hopefully you're in the Christmas mood and everything's positive towards the season. Now, this evening, I'm going to be having a special guest on, and her name is Miss Folashade Apampa. She is a family expert when it comes down to relationships, children. She is just amazing, and she's accredited by Resolution, which is one of the family accreditation panels that certifies who is an expert in family law in the United Kingdom. So, without further ado, please, good evening, Miss Folashade Apampa.
Good evening, and good evening, viewers.
Well, welcome to Truth and Justice TV. Now, people may sit down and say, who is Miss Apampa? And how have you come about being such an expert in the area of family law?
Well, as Mr. OBASEKI rightly said, my name is Folashade. I'm a lawyer. I first qualified in a different jurisdiction, Nigeria. I practiced for some time in Nigeria before relocating to the United Kingdom. I practice in not only family law area, but yes, family law is where I specialize now. But I do practice in immigration, in employment law and civil litigation. And now I'll be practicing for over 11 years in the United Kingdom.
Wow.
And I've honed my skill in the area of law that I practice. And here today we are focusing on family law.
Today, focusing on family law, though we know that you are multi-talented, multi-jurisdictional, we will just today help our viewers out in this season because it can be a very stressful season, and the divorce rates, if you don't know, do go up in January. So sometimes people go into this season with pressures already in place, and then sometimes things just boil over. But what we'll be looking at is not just the issue of separation, but the new family dynamics. The classical husband, wife, and 1.2 kids is not the norm for everybody. So if we look at the whole institution of marriage, sometimes in the UK it may be challenged whether people consider themselves married or not. So does the law recognise customary marriages?
Well, I've often heard people saying that someone is a common law, customary law wife and all that. Well, as good as it may sound, there's nothing like common law marriage. Unfortunately, it's either you're married under the Marriage Act of 1949 or you're not married. But that doesn't mean that you do not have rights, which we will get into shortly, if though you're not married. But like I said, there's nothing like common law marriage. You shouldn't deceive ourselves. If someone is not married,
So
is not married.
if a couple are cohabiting and they sitting down thinking, okay, back home somebody has broken cola nut, put some kai kai in a cup, and they've said, okay, we're married, is that going to be recognized here?
Unfortunately not. If you, although, culturally,
Culture,
we
yes.
see, if you, like, if you take someone to church or registry and you've not done the traditional African thing, that you say, oh,
Some
you're
of
not
those
married.
some of those grandparents will say that's not marriage.
It's not
till you bring
married.
the calling nut.
Though it's marriage over there, but I mean culturally, but it's not recognized, and unfortunately, the person will not have the rights that
A civil
yeah,
partnership
that
or
a civil
a church marriage may have.
marriage under the act will give a partner or a wife. So it's not recognized.
But I can see that sometimes the courts see it as an intention to commitment, but not necessarily marriage. I know that in Ghana it's been tested and some other places, even when it's done in absentia, the law has different cases, but the mere fact is it will not be seen as a lawful wedding. But when people are coming together, as we're talking about so many people in common law situations or separate situations, when people come together, is there a way they can protect their interests without being married, just by cohabiting?
Right. Of course, there are ways that you could protect your interests if you're not married, or although marriage is desirable.
Desirable.
But I mean, our society has got different kinds of family
Structures
nowadays. So, if you're not married and you are in a relationship akin to marriage, your rights can still be protected. And if you're getting, properties together, if you are investing in business,
Yes.
it's just that you need to have things set out properly. For instance, if you're buying a house together, you make sure you both have your names there, and to prevent, unnecessary acrimony in the future, you can set out in what percentage the house is owned. So if it is owned and that's what we call owning as tenants in common, not as joint tenants. But if you choose to own as tenants, joint tenants, that means
with no distinction.
With no distinction, it means that you could own the property together, but if anything happens to one of you, that property devolves on the surviving person.
Okay, so if you're not outlining how you own this property, what will happen is if one of you accidentally falls into an accident or something happens, then the surviving person acquires the total property. So it's important that you do protect your interests and distinguish how the property is acquired. Same with business. Presume if there's you acquire a business together, you outline how each person owns their share in the business.
Yes, exactly. If you have any business, you set out the structure and everything that you're doing legally. Like they say that knowledge is a great thing. There are times that it's all you need is to see, an advisor. I mean, legal advisor now, to tell you what to do. Because there are times that even though people are educated, they have good intention, they do not know how to go about things. So that at the end of the day, you are not worse off when things, because nobody prays that
Things
their
go
working
wrong.
relationship goes wrong.
But when it
But
does,
things happen, and for you to prevent this, you need to, make sure you have things in place to protect your interests.
so would you say this is like preventative as well as makes sure that there's clarity? So it's preventative and it ensures clarity if there's ever confusion or conflict going forward.
Yes, I'll say that because it makes things, it sets out things clearly on how you want to proceed from where you are. So that in the future, if anything happens, you know that, yes, your interests are protected and there will be less problems with, working things out going
All right.
forward.
What if before going into the relationship, there's a form of let's say cohabitation agreement, or even before marrying, a prenuptial agreement? Because some people say prenups are not enforceable in the United Kingdom, but I know that I've drafted and signed many. So what would you say about prenups for married people and cohabitation agreements for those who are in cohabitation situations?
Well, for cohabitees, as we call them, I'll start with that. You are in relationship. Going into like a formal agreement. So in most cases, you don't really need a kind of, an agreement in a cohabiting situation. All you need to, all that I believe is required is that you make sure that you do not you set out what you intend. Your intentions are clear in everything you're doing. If you have a property and somebody is coming, you make it clear that this is my property. I do not
Before we
intend
got together,
to,
this is mine, this
yes,
is yours.
this is yours, and everything is clear. But in a situation where you're married, unfortunately, as you said, prenup is not that, you know, uh, effective in the UK, unlike
So the judges may go behind the prenuptial agreement.
Yeah, they could, but the thing is that, be that as it may, it's of persuasive authority.
So it shows
if
intention
it's there,
of the parties.
yes, when it shows your intention and it's clear, the judge will work with that.
Okay.
When you have it in place. So it is not a law, but it persuades the court as to what the intention of the parties are. And I will say, if you have, if you have misgivings or you have concerns or you're not sure as to where your position is, it's better. Because I mean, it doesn't detract from anything. If for anything, it gives you some sort of,
So if somebody's not so sure, number one, they should really take advice before signing the agreement or any kind of agreement. You take independent advice. Don't necessarily get advice from the lawyer that's handing it to you to tell you to sign it, especially if the lawyer that's handing you the agreement is the lawyer that's been presented to you by your partner or your spouse. You have to get independent legal advice before signing anything. But if you're in a position where you're not so sure of your rights and you're not so certain as to, let me say, how the future's going to lay out, whether you're going to be able to equally match your partner, that doesn't really matter, because the law will actually fall onto who contributed during the course of the relationship, and also look at other factors as well. So if somebody is not married and they separate, even though there's no family or matrimonial causes that can protect them, what can they sort of rely on to get their interests out of the relationship, if you know what I mean? So they've invested in 3 properties, the relationship is no longer working. How will the court then look at dividing the assets between cohabitees, as you say?
Yes. In a situation where parties unfortunately going their different ways after cohabiting. Of course, they cannot bring an action under the matrimonial consent of, but there's a provision for them under the civil procedure. And it's what is called the Trust of Land and Appointment of Trustees Act. It's called TOLATA.
Polata.
Under TOLATA, you can bring, an application before the court to look at your interest or what your interest should be in assets of the cohabiting relationship.
So that's any assets. It could be a business. It could be
yes.
It could be in relation to the fixtures and fittings, even if it comes down to that, if they're very expensive, or it could be property, flats, freeholds, leasehold businesses, commercial businesses as well.
Exactly, and they will look down into how you be contributing into the relationships. It won't be a matter of saying, well, even if a property is in someone's name alone, that does not necessarily mean
that they'll acquire all the interest in it.
If the court looks into, the affairs, the way you'll be conducting your affairs, and the way you'll be doing things, and the court can find that you've contributed immensely or, a proportion.
Or even indirectly.
Yes, indirectly into it, then the court will look into that and find for you. So it doesn't mean that all is lost.
No, it doesn't mean all is lost.
No.
Even if you're not the one putting all the finances in, but you've been doing maybe some of the work, some of the management, TOLATA is there in order to make sure that there's a fair division between assets that have been acquired during cohabitation. Now, though we've been looking at married couples, unmarried couples, cohabitees, when we look at civil arrangements and civil orders for people who are not cohabiting, but have civil ceremonies, does the law apply in the same manner?
You mean the civil the civil before the marriage, people with civil.
So this is people in civil relationship that go to.
Okay. Yeah. They have rights as well, and they can bring applications in the court also for financial orders as well. So.
All right.
They can.
So all is not lost.
What they're entitled to in law.
So the civil procedure rules are there if you're not married and you're cohabiting and it's a civil arrangement. And the matrimonial, is it Causes Act, is there?
Yeah,
and
you have financial remedies. Yeah,
so we're going to look more at these financial remedies in relation to children after the break. And we're also going to look into having some of you call in and ask. I heard the phone lines going, but we're going to take questions in the last 15 minutes of the show. The reason being is so that we can get a lot of the information out to you. The phone number will be on the screen there, so feel free to call. So we'll take a very short break, and then we'll be back to address children in situations of marriage and situations of separation. See you after the break.
When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Now we're talking everything about relationships today. And again, my special guest is Miss Folashade Apampa, family law expert, litigation extraordinaire. And she's going into the nitty-gritty of some of the situations we find ourselves in modern family life in today's society. Now, before going into the break, we talked about marriage, cohabitees, people who've gone through civil ceremony, what happens, how you can protect yourself if you own joint assets, and also what happens if things go wrong. But we're going to take it a little step further. Now, before people talk about the big D word, divorce, there is the obligation to really see if you can work things out. Does the court just champion people coming in and give a rubber stamp to their applications for divorce?
Well, I do not want to talk too much about divorce today, but relationships do break down from time to time. People are encouraged to work on it, see if they can see some experts who could help them work through their difficulties.
But what you see, some people will sit down and say to you, they're having difficulties now. Which experts? That sounds expensive. So suggestions for people and real practical applications for people. If things are not working out, obviously they may consult their pastors, they may consult therapists,
yes,
they can consult marriage counselors, and really put in the effort when they're going in to do these things.
And they may choose to go for mediation.
And mediation,
yeah, they have
as well.
an independent person to talk to them about the difficulties they're having. That's for divorce. I just want to quickly say something about this, because when we're coming down, I mentioned the fact that, especially we people of color, you often find out that, you find a situation where a relationship breaks down and a woman is thrown out of her house, her matrimonial home. And what happens? Because we're people of culture, you find them knocking doors from one place to another to get
support,
to get support and to get the issue resolved. And at times the thing is tilting to one side because the other side, at times it could be a woman that is kicking the man out. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
But in our culture, mostly it happens to women. Mm-hmm. And you find that they are knocking the relatives' houses. They're going to
maybe get help to come
to
appease the
partner to take them back. And you have little children, who are in the middle of all this. And what do you find down the line? 6 months still down the line, the woman is still out and in the cold. Nothing is happening. Nothing is resolved. And you find the man taking steps. What should be for the family is being used to acquire another woman. Mm-hmm. And here you have little children who needs protection, and they're out there. The woman takes everything in good faith and is saying, okay, I pray it comes back to me and all that.
Or we pray it gets resolved.
Yeah,
but she doesn't take maybe legal steps.
You see, while you're looking at the cultural solution, I'm a woman of faith myself, pray, mm-hmm. and you're looking at the spiritual solution to things, believing God that things. You also need to keep an eye on the legal solution. What I mean is that if there's a property, make sure you put your matrimonial home rights.
Register your
Yes,
interests
you know,
at the
on
land
it.
registry.
Because the problem is, if you don't do that, and the man decide to sell that house and dissipate the, the funds of the house before you wake up to say you want to bring your financial remedy application, what the court will look at is what is left in the coffer, what is left
What is left?
in the pot,
But not
you
what
know?
you necessarily put in there, but
Yeah.
what's left over.
What is left
So,
after,
in other words, a woman should act in good time, at least register her interest. All
If,
let me say, mediation can be taking place
Of course.
while your interest is registered. But if you fail to register your interest, and for example, your partner or husband remortgages that property, then
take out the money and
again take out the
maybe
equity.
take
Your
to
interest
Africa
is
to spend.
or buy another house or get another customary marriage in Africa. Anything can
Yeah.
happen, but our point is act in time, get advice in time. Yeah,
Yes, it is important that,
it's important. Okay.
Hosea says, my people perish for lack of
Knowledge.
knowledge. Knowledge is important and it's good to have it on
What
time.
about women who feel that maybe they were married back home in wherever that is, and they are in the diasporan community? So they married back home, civil ceremony or traditional ceremony, have come to the UK living together, things fall apart sadly, or there's a period of separation. What about the properties back home? How does the court look at that? Do they look at the house in the village, the house in the city, as well as the houses in London? How will the court look at that?
Well, the thing is, if you have a financial remedy application, what the court looks at is the asset of the family in its entirety, whether it's in Kutuwenji or Shangisha Feresa in Australia. The court will look at everything that you have all together. So if for instance, the husband, you're taking care of the family, is using his income to build a house in Nigeria, it's your matrimonial asset. So all those things will need to be valued. And nowadays things are become, we
Very
are living
easy. Digital society.
Living
You
in
can go
a
to Google
DNA.
Maps and look at the house in the village.
You don't need to
Sometimes,
you
not all
don't
the
need to
time.
travel at times. All you need is to instruct
An
an
agent.
estate valuer
Or
to
a
do
surveyor
that,
to go and do the
and you
valuation.
can do it as a joint instruction, but we don't need to go into that. So all those things, suffice to say that, all those things can be brought in as your
And would you say,
matrimonial asset.
would you honestly say that the judges in the UK are quite clued up? Or would you say they still have a way to go when it comes down to perspective of valuing property, especially property and assets on the African continent?
I won't say they are, clear up, but the thing is, because it's another jurisdiction, it has its own difficulty. Don't forget the fact that, in all this, we have people who lie through their teeth because they want to protect their interests. We're talking about money. So they will go all their way to make sure the assets are not valued at times. Or
be obstructive,
yes,
or reflect a reduced value.
yes,
Ah.
and all that, and don't forget that, because unfortunately in Africa there's this bad image about things in Africa, not many of them
Being
not
up
being
to standard
authentic
or
and
being
not
authentic.
substandard
But I
and all
guess-
that. So there's that also, but be that as it may, I think with quite a number of such cases coming before judges, then
The
Yeah,
diaspora
they are
communities,
getting
whether it's African
used
or
to this,
Caribbean
yeah.
or even Eastern European, the judges are having to get used to having maybe a bit of an international dynamic on some of the divorce cases. But on that same note, how are the judges seeing partners who travel a lot and that maybe have children that want to spend or need to spend time with both parents? Does the court look at how the children will be shared and co-parented?
Oftentimes you have people who want to, have like an agreement drawn up between themselves And that brings me to the issue of children. We should not lose sight of the fact that, whatever happens to us
Between
as
the adults,
humans,
yeah.
we should not. I know that it's difficult, but we should not,
Let the
let it,
emotions
yeah, yeah,
blind the
impact
fact
on
that
the
the
children,
kids
because these
are the most
children
important
are
thing.
they didn't beg to be brought into the world. They are growing, and they should. We should try as much as possible let them have normal life, and we've had cases where parents decide to uh, share their children, but personally, to me, and I also think, in most cases, judges want to keep children together. So they will often, keep the children with maybe the mother, and
Or the
because
main caregiver
the main caregiver, which in most cases
is the mother.
happens to be the man. But we've had cases where the main caregiver
Is
is
the man,
the father.
yes. Things are changing, different dynamics
So
nowadays.
they would like to keep the children together because children that grow up together will be able to understand,
One another, and then
one
there's
another and all
emotional
that,
effects when you
Yes,
separate children.
yes, no.
But I'm speaking more in relation to, let's say, arrangements of sharing time. So if parents come to agreements themselves amicably, can a court just, let's say, rubber stamp what is agreed?
Yes.
So people can come to, parental arrangements between themselves and really get them rubber stamped by a judge. And that's quite often done. And I think there's a lot of templates on the internet now in relation to that.
Yeah, parental agreement
Order. So you can try and do that. Then the other thing really, when it comes down to breakdown of relationship, is the maintenance of the children. Many people on paper try to prove that they have no income when it comes down to the children. Or some even say, go to the CSA. Let the government, Her Majesty, raise your children, even though, they're working. So what does a woman or a man do if they're the main caregiver, they've got the kids, and the other person that's working is refusing to help with child maintenance?
Well, first and foremost, what I would say, like I said before, when people, are in a relationship that's broken down, never lose sight of the important thing. And we're talking about the children. I've heard of cases where a man will stop working because he doesn't want to pay child support. That shouldn't be at all. You brought these children into the world. You should stand up at every point in time and be able to take care of them. Now, having said that, if the relationship has broken down and you want support, and the other party is not, forthcoming, of course you can go to, there used to be child support agency before, child maintenance services now they're called. A percentage of the paying parents income will be given to the the parent that is caring. The receiving parent will receive some amount of money from the income of the paying parent, and even if the paying parent is not working, a percentage of the benefit they are taking, they are receiving,
will
go to the child,
Exactly.
and that continues until the child is 19 years if the child remains in education.
So up to the age of 19.
So that is that. And another thing, in support of children, if the father happens, if you happens to have, for people, even if you're not married, you have this rich man, you have, you have children for them.
So if it's an unmarried situation.
Yes, and they have, relatively
good income.
Good income. If they earn, if businessmen earn in excess of 3,000 per week, there's another application that you can make that will reflect the standard of living that the child should be living, and you can make that application to court for support, and the court will award,
a fair amount to increase the child's standard
even
of
if
living.
it could even be up to, making sure the child have a roof over his or her head. If the man has two houses,
So the court
will
can
take
order
one for the
For the
child.
child.
Even if it is one house, the court could order the house to be sold. Because, don't forget the fact that we're talking about vulnerable as against an adult who can fend
So
for themselves.
a
So,
court can direct that an
yes.
adult sells his property in order to facilitate that his child
care of
has
that child.
a roof over his head or has adequate care, basically.
Yes.
Can I just ask, this is for clarity, what about those businessmen who operate abroad, have factories, some even have mines or mining rights, or have general businesses abroad that so it's hard to prove their income, and then maybe the wife is here, sees the husband or former partner driving around in a Bentley, I'm exaggerating, but doesn't give any contribution towards the children, and they hear that the person has a property in the Bahamas or is on holiday in Dubai, and they're sitting here maybe on benefits, scratching, trying to maintain the children in the UK. What can that person do? Does it depend on whether the man has citizenship rights here? What can the person do?
Well, we have to be realistic because even with our law, there's limitation
Yes.
with law. If the person the father of the child happens to, be in one of the European countries, it will be easier,
try and
to
get an
access,
enforcement and access.
support. But if it is in Africa
Or Dubai.
or Dubai,
Or America.
even if it is America, you
It's
can,
easy,
yeah,
yeah.
because those develop,
Places that have
countries,
developed
yeah,
jurisdictions.
yes,
It's
you can't chase them. But if it were to be in Africa where people could hide, their assets, if you can, like it was said that if the man is driving around in Bentley, he should surely have something here, a bank account or something. And if he doesn't, it may be difficult to get support. But if you succeed in having, some sort of order
For
in your
disclosure.
favor, you may be able to go through the jurisdiction that is in. It may cost you a bit, but you can go through that jurisdiction and try to get justice without order.
So if we get an order in the United Kingdom, maybe for disclosure of evidence, whether it's in relation to bank accounts, company registrations, directorships, and you're not getting a lot of joy in the United Kingdom, you may be able to have that order sealed and enforced in the jurisdiction where the person lives. And furthermore, further applications can be made if the UK court makes a final decision based on somebody's failure to cooperate, even in the UK with the disclosure element, and you can try to make sure that you secure justice in the jurisdiction where the person lives. So even if the person is elusive, if I use that word,
Yeah.
don't give up. There are still legal provisions there that are able to catch elusive parents who are failing to provide for their children. And have you dealt with cases like this? So you're able to outline that there's light at the end of the tunnel and people should persevere?
Well, like I said, it is a bit difficult, but yeah, it is not impossible.
Good. Okay, so we're going to take another very short break, and after that we'll be able to take some phone calls, and the number's on the screen, so if you want to call into the studio, we will hear from you and maybe give you a little bit of guidance. So we'll see you after this very, very short break. See you soon.
When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.legalpower.com.
Welcome back, and we're talking about relationships and protecting your interests, financial solutions to caregivers who are not getting enough support from absent parents, and also what to do when it all goes wrong and it all seems that there's no light at the end of the tunnel, what legal provisions are in place to make sure that you can actually recoup what you've invested into a time in a relationship. Now, going forward, we did look at tangible assets, assets that you can actually see and touch. But nowadays, whenever a judge is actually looking at financial provision and assets, the judge looks at also your ability to earn in the future. So they look at the age of the parties, long-term investment and pensions and things like that. So sometimes when a judge makes an order and one party maybe earns a lot more than the other and one has been at home doing the caregiving and hasn't been able to amass a pension, will a judge look at that situation?
Definitely. In a situation where, relationship has broken down and you have application for financial remedies, if a chance they don't have physical asset in terms of having houses and all that, and maybe it's just one house.
Or even a council flat or a flat.
And then that does not mean
yeah.
you're not still entitled to, because at times you say,
remedies, yeah.
you got this place before we got married, and you've been married for 20 years. And you feel you're not entitled to anything. And he's been working since he was 16. And he's amassed a huge pension for himself. And then he's invested in, say, in stocks and all that. And all those things. And you still have a child that's underage that needs to be,
When you say underage, maybe people need to realise that if a child's in full-time education, the court still looks at them.
Yes.
So even if the child is above 18, the care and support that child still needs will be looked at. So from 0 up to 23 if they're in full-time education and they're doing a hard academic course. The court will look at what support that young person, not necessarily child, will still need and what support they need.
Yes, but the important ages that the courts will consider mostly is the age of 0 to 18 and then 19.
And then after that you have to fight.
Depending on the circumstances of depending, at times you have people who are disabled and all that.
Yeah, dependents can be elderly
support.
and young.
But having said that, where you have children who are still under 16, need support and all that, and you have this man who has built up pension.
We say man, but it could be a woman.
It
Lots
could be
of
a
women
woman.
are now high earners.
Yes, of course.
Few men are at home being the main caregiver. So we'll interchange the terms, but don't feel that we're male bashing.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
I would rather use the word this partner, who has built up a huge amount of money in terms of pension. And has done himself well in terms of investments and all that. All those things are going to be looked into. Okay. Don't just feel that, we only have one flower, whereas
don't just look at the tangible assets.
It's not only the property you have in the UK, it's other places as well. So bear that in mind.
And dependents can be elderly. If you've got a history of looking after an elderly person as well as your children, a court will look at the family dynamics as a whole. Okay, so if you've got an elderly parent who is also a dependent on the family, it's something that should be reflected. But when we look at the household itself, you talked about where it's not safe or somebody's been thrown out of their house. What remedy does a woman or a man have that is A, in a situation where they have been thrown out, or B, where there's a history of abuse that rides on with that?
Right. In cases where a partner is thrown out of the house they share,
or just even locked out, the keys changed, that's happened quite frequently.
You, depending on the circumstances, you could apply for what we call an occupation order for you to return back to the place, and then the other party excluded. we've had cases where if the other party, if the situation is not that volatile, and you've got two doors, the court will say, yes, you take that door,
Downstairs and you
upstairs.
upstairs.
And then, they live there for, pending the determination of whatever they're looking at. But if it is a case where children are involved and the woman is thrown out, nowadays it's even, such applications, the court, the system or the law is mindful of the fact that, there are vulnerable people out there, and they've removed the fee for lodging the application. So if it's a case of
Just getting back into the
domestic,
property.
domestic violence, you may be entitled to have legal aid to take care of that, and then get you back into the property.
That is
protect the
quite
interests of the
an
children.
important area for me. I'm an advocate for women's rights. I'm an advocate for the abused. But where and when can people get legal aid? It's very confusing for some of the frontline workers as to whether the person before them that's been thrown out is eligible for legal aid or not when it comes down to family law applications. Can you clarify the likely circumstances where somebody is entitled to legal aid and areas where they're not?
Well, there's specific criteria under legal aid that are expected to be met before someone could be entitled to legal aid, and you know that the threshold is becoming higher. It used to be
Used to be easy, not
easier
anymore.
before, and a lot of things have been removed. Like somebody saying, "Oh, I want to do financial." Yes, that brings me to another thing, and I'll talk about it in a minute. Finance. Now, with legal aid, you must have, call the police, have some sort of police report,
Record of the abuse.
record of the
Okay.
abuse before you can be entitled to. It's one of those things. Whether the person ended up in a refuge or that, and some other things, that it's a long list. Whether you reported abuse to your doctor before and all that, and then your income still matters in this.
So they'll still look at your income, even if you've been beaten black and blue. So if you're above the threshold, you may not be able to qualify.
Maybe if you are,
One of the things that does upset me is obviously if you've been subject to a physical assault, your mental state may mean that your ability to work is affected. So even though the legal aid looks at your income, at the time of the actual incident, you may be stopped or unable to work, but still women or men who are victims of abuse have to realize that even if you've suffered the physical, you've called the police, you've been to a refuge, or you've sought the help and support of a charity that deals with domestic violence, the legal aid assessment board will still look at your income.
yes, because unfortunately, some areas of legal aid means are merit tested.
Yeah,
So,
but if it's something to do with the local authority and social services,
yeah, it's not. It's no means no.
no
merit.
means of merit, it's automatic. You then automatically get legal aid.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay, so
yeah,
you were
so
saying
that's
about the injunction, occupation. So you might get legal aid to help you get back into the home.
Yes,
you might
yes,
not.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You should get. At times you may need to pay a contribution, but
Okay.
in most cases people do get it. That brings me to the issue of finance.
Uh-huh.
I know that because women at times are not. Sorry,
So
I know
clued
that.
up about finance. We rest on our laurels. We're a bit trusting, and so we don't get our head around all those figures and agreements and policies. Let's say.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
and at times, your any power, because we are mothers taking care of children and all that.
So our earning capacity
could
may
be
be reduced.
could be reduced, and then you find yourself in a situation where you need to address the issue of financial remedies. These areas are areas they call it money cases. So, and if you dealing with money cases, you will need to pay. for the legal
Advice.
and services that you'll be receiving, whether taking the matter to court or otherwise. So what happens that if you are in dire strait and you're not able to pay, there are avenues that you can explore
To fund your case.
to fund your case.
I see.
You could get a loan. Your case will be assessed to see whether you'll be able to recoup something.
A loan from who?
Yeah, they are independent people
Who actually tailor finances to fund divorce cases
yes,
where there's assets involved.
Their premium is not too high. So they can give you a loan for 12 months or more to deal with the case. And when you win your case, eventually you will get something out of it. So it's because they believe that you get something. That's why.
You'll get the money, I see.
Yeah, so you'll get the loan.
All right, so even if you feel I'm not going to go for this financial provision because it's going to cost me money and I don't have money, you shouldn't sit down and deny yourself access to justice. There are ways that you can finance your case. If the lawyer feels that they can see there's sufficient assets there that they can actually claim their costs at the end, that's one way. You may go into an agreement with your lawyer. Alternatively, there are actual loans that are tailored for financial cases when it comes down to separation. So a loan could be sourced for you in order for you to carry out paying the cost of your legal proceedings going forward. And one of the things that we want to draw you back to is the whole element of mediation. Now, the court doesn't like to sit down and acrimoniously, let's say, divide up people's assets. So mediation is something that you should embrace with both hands and go into with a mind that is positive on resolution. If you go in and think and you're carrying all the emotions with you, you're going to be clouded and you're not going to have the mindset of resolution. You're going to have the mindset of emotions. This is what happened 2 years ago. This is what they did to me. This is the woman that I caught him with. No, it's about going forward. So, or even if it's a man in that position, this is how that woman was. She spent all her money on gele, on rapper, on party, or whatever it is. She sent all the money back home, whatever it is. It is about making sure there's provisions going forward. So please, making sure that you do definitely go into mediation with an open mind, with advice as well, making sure that you outline what your thresholds are in areas and being prepared to be flexible, being prepared, as I say, to have a mind for resolution and compromise. It is so important because at the end of the day, you start with mediation. If you can iron out as much things there, you save yourself so much time, money, and hurt and headache. Exactly. And this is the thing, you don't want to sit down and you have a pot of a family that have acquired maybe £2 million worth of assets or less, much less, and you spend months and months on lawyers, accountants, court and hearing fees, experts or those surveyors outside the country, people who are pension experts, who are looking at what should be provided, who look at how many years left you may have to work and what your potential earning capacity is. And then at the end of the day, what was 2 million suddenly gets down by a good 100,000 or more in fees. And people sit down and think, oh gosh, at the end of it. And then they realise it could even be much more than that. It could be even up to £250,000 in fees, different expert fees, hearing fees, lawyers' fees. And that can be avoided if you go into mediation with a, let me say, open mind and an open mind towards resolution. Now, before we conclude, we did open up the phone lines, but we don't seem to have any calls coming through. What are the few points you would want people to sort of leave the program and think, okay, at least I have clarity on this issue or that area? What are the salient points that you see in practice coming up that you'd like to be able to address the public, especially our, let me say, the diaspora community on?
Well, what I'll say is that, when relationships break down, it's important not to focus on the heart and the emotion
Emotions.
only, but also be open to the options available to resolving and getting what is rightly yours and that of the children, protecting the interests of the children. That matters a lot, because whilst we're burying our head in the sand trying to save a relationship that may unfortunately not be,
It takes two people to save a relationship.
Yes, it does,
And it may
you
even
know,
take God's hand as well.
Yes.
But yes, if I understand what you mean. If you're sitting down, obviously praying on the issue, consulting pastors, family members, time's going, and you're not necessarily protecting your interest as it is,
yes,
Yeah.
that interest may be dissipated,
it may be dissipated, which is
and
very
then
important.
you're not able to get anything at the end of the day.
Okay. So, apart from the fact that you may be very, very much so emotionally hurt, you've got to stay focused on what's important, the children, your interests. But before all of that, the possibility of a resolution. The possibility of a resolution is always there. Divorce is not the end game. There is the possibility of separation with the ability to bounce back. So it shouldn't be, divorce shouldn't be the first and end game option. It should be the last option, and only when you've realised that things have broken down completely irrevocably. Before going into a marriage or any situation, very important again that if there is high net worth, that you take advice. You might want to seek the idea of having laid out a prenuptial agreement, get independent advice on that. Remembering that it's not necessarily 100% enforceable here in the UK, but it does indicate intention. Now, going forward, if you ever need advice on this, people can come in to OBASEKI Solicitors and contact Folashade Apampa. You can even email her at folashade@obasekisolicitors.com. So you can get, book yourself a consultation, air out some of the issues you may have and get a resolution. So thank you for joining me today. My name's Jennifer OBASEKI, and thank you once again, Ms. Apampa, for joining us this evening on Truth and Justice TV. We've been very honoured to have you. Join us again next week for another wonderful session of Truth and Justice TV, and get yourself enlightened when it comes down to the law and your rights and protecting your interests. Stay blessed.
When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com.